folks here. I recognize some of the people. I'm going to call some of those folks out through this process to kind of tell us what they've seen out in the marketplace, because we got a bunch of good things going. Well, welcome to our Driving GSA Sales series. We're focusing on marketing into the federal government. I don't know if Carl's here yet, but Carl is usually here with proposal development and capture management. He works a lot in that space, and we also have Jamie here with GSA proposal, and we'll get to that in just a minute. I am Dave Lowe. I'm the CEO of isiFederal here in Maryland. And I don't see Carl, as I mentioned before, not yet anyway. If he posts, that's great. He's with CapturePlanning.com and Prop Library. Jamie, say hello again.
Hey everybody, how we doing this morning?
And Jamie's with GSAProposal.com. They help folks with their proposals, and we can talk about that a little bit, and if we need to. So this number that matters most today is 104. If you know what that means, and you can't play, Jamie, because you already know the answer, but if you know what that number means, you can chat it in on the right-hand side of your column. In fact, if you take a look on your screen, you got this little red doodah, the arrow, and that pops out, and you can chat things down below. And then also, you can make sure that you enter your audio pin so we can unmute you, so we can have some dialogue through this. We love to have the interface and have folks work with us to help us identify great places to improve and with you. And we're also going to do some quick polls today. And these polls are going to pop up, and they're going to look like this. And the question is, how much federal business do you do annually? So if you would just do this, and we're going to try to make this whole thing work, and I'm kind of running this a little bit new. So if you can, let me just make sure you can see that. Can you see that, Jamie? Can you see that poll right there?
Sure can. It looks great,
okay,
Dave.
Okay, so go ahead and fill that out. I'm going to check. We do have some. Somebody's here. Who is this? Who's here? John Graham. Hang on a second, John. I'm going to see if I can unmute you. And give me 1 second. Let me see if I can find you on here. There he is. John, are you there? I don't know if you have a microphone or not. Hey, John.
It's the computer.
That's fine. That's great. Hey, so John, who are you with?
Sullivan Cove Consultants.
Sullivan Cove.
Yes, sir.
Sullivan Cove Consultants. Tell me what that number means.
Well, that's the number of days left in FY 2013.
That's absolutely right, and and I'll send you out a Starbucks gift card if you can shoot me your email, chat me your email, and make sure I have that. It's a little fuzzy on your side, so I got to get back and do that. But that was the right answer. So if we're done with this, let's see it. If you all answered the question in that poll, let's take a look and see what we're going to close that down in about 10 seconds. So we're not going to keep this open too long, and let's see. Got a couple more. Let's see here. I got a couple more. We'll close that down. All right. So if you didn't get it in, you can email me, and I'm going to share this poll with everybody so you can see. So most of the folks here. Let's see if I can do this real quick. Most of the folks here have a little bit of federal work. Some of you have between 1 and 2.5 million. A few have 2.5 to 5, and a lot of folks have less than 500,000. To know, because the folks that are here, generally, I'm pretty sure everybody here has GSA schedules already. They may have multiple schedules, so we'll be talking a little bit about how we can enhance those, and that's probably why you're here. And so we'll kind of bounce back to that, and bear with me as I'm dealing with these polls because it's something new. So this series is really developed for GSA schedule holders to identify the obstacles to success and to help increase, let me do that, because you're still seeing this. Hold on 1 second. There we go. All right, so we're back on. So to identify obstacles to success so that you're actually utilizing your GSA schedule and capturing other business in the federal space, gaining exposure outside of your current circle of influence, and kind of expanding out of the market that you're existing in, giving you some insider information, connecting you with some resources like Jamie and Carl and some other folks that are going to pop in from time to time, and I think we have a couple folks here as well, so that we can get to the place where we're winning business. A little bit about the sponsors here. I'm with isiFederal. We help folks develop business in the federal space. We start with intelligence. We have some really cool things. We're going to review a couple of those things, and I have somebody here that's a ringer for me. Actually, he called me about 5 minutes before this webinar. We're going to talk a little bit about the intelligence that we do and the kinds of things that we're doing to help them. We also provide marketing services where we're reaching out to these folks in the federal government and helping spread the word. We do also the grunt work, doing work in the federal space, and also doing management. So if your folks are going out in the federal space, just making sure they're doing things right. We also provide dedicated representation and feet on the street here in Washington, D.C. and other places. And what that does for you is it gives you a bolt-on federal business development solution so that you don't have to grow it internally. So that's the idea. That's our concept. And real quick, we do have a GovCon symposium where I will be speaking next week at Camden Yards. So if you're either local to the D.C., Baltimore area, let me know. And this includes a sweet ticket. Everybody's going to come to see me speak, I know. And I know Jamie's going to reinforce that for me, given that he's an Indians fan. So if you're in the area, please join us. It's free to C-level folks. And to give you an idea of the overview of the way that's going to play out, 5:30. You're going to get there at the park, and there's networking, hors d'oeuvres, and such. And then we're going to start talking about some of the compliance issues. I'm going to do some components for growth strategies and talking about sequestration, how you can continue to grow in there. And then we're going to be doing some wealth planning components in how things are constantly changing. And a lot of that has to do with mergers and acquisitions and exit strategies. And then we'll move to a suite for dinner and drinks and networking, and then 7:05 we start watching the game. So it's going to be a good time. So if you're interested in doing that, email me right now. And Aisha, if you could shoot out for everybody my email address, and they can just click, and you can do that right this minute, and send me a message that you would like to come, and we'll see what we can do to get you a ticket. Again, it's reserved for C-level folks, executives, kind of thing. So that we have the right kind of folks there. And CapturePlanning.com, they help companies learn how to create those winning proposals in your technical proposal and your responses so that it resonates with the buyer. And you can go to PropLibrary.com and also CapturePlanning.com. If you haven't been there, go there because it has great information, a whole bunch of free stuff, as well as Prop Library, which you have to pay for. But it's absolutely worth it to help you with the process of identifying how to, internally, how you're going to manage your proposal writing process and improve, because you have to do that in order to be able to win. And you do that at PropLibrary.com and CapturePlanning.com, so you can check those places out. And finally, we have GSAProposal.com, and they do proposal development and management. And tell us a little bit about that, Jamie, what that means, because proposal development, I think people can get their hands around that you guys help them, soup to nuts, help them get their GSA schedule, and it doesn't matter which schedule it is. But a lot of folks here have some. Maybe they'd like to get another one, and most people that have done it once don't want to do it again. So here's access to Jamie, and tell us about the management side too, and how you can help them.
Well, you're certainly right there, Dave, as far as if a client needs a new schedule or has a schedule and has gone into another area and needs additional schedule, we can certainly help them with new schedule as far as getting that done. Soup to nuts, guaranteed solution as far as the award goes. And with regards to maintaining your existing schedule, as you go through the life cycle of a 20-year GSA schedule that goes in 5-year increments, periodically you're going to want to make changes to that schedule. And one of the most common ones that we see is economic price adjustments, where you laid a price in place that might be 2-3 years old, and you need to bring your rates up to be able to add a little bit more profit into your company's into the bank account. So we do economic price adjustments and also additions of new products and services. In many cases, especially where product lines change quickly, there may be deleting old products to get them off the schedule because they're not relevant anymore. Those are all part of a schedule revision, and we do that as a complete pass-through process where we make all the changes, get them back in front of the GSA procurement officer, get those changes approved, and then after they're part of your schedule, go back out to gsaadvantage.gov, upload those changes. The PCO checks it to make sure it matches what they've approved. They turn it on from the inside, and that gets your schedule current.
And for some reason, they like to do that stuff, and I let them because I don't want anything to do with it with our side. I just want to get out there and sell stuff, and these guys help on the back end. And I really appreciate Jamie being here, and I'm sure that there's going to be some insight on those things. If you need those types of things, reach out to Jamie. Please tell them what you're doing. And I'm telling you, they have 100% track record, and they're absolutely the best value in the marketplace. So why are we here today? This webinar would be the best ever if I ever attended if, and Raphael Gray said, it increases our exposure to the government. He's with Kale Construction. Lestelle Greenwald, I don't know how to say that, Promontory Management Group. It addressed in detail how small businesses should market. And Nancy said, it helps me keep my GSA schedule contract. And for those that are less than $500,000, I know some of you are struggling to be able to meet that $25,000 minimum. And that may be why you're here. Because the top needs of GSA schedule holders, number one, is my contract is underperforming and I'm in danger of losing it. Now, a lot of these next pieces, as we review them, I can't find the right people. I've been doing everything I can, but I can't break through. I've been meeting with the small business people. I've been doing everything they're telling me to do, and I can't get through there. The buyers just won't talk to me. The people that are responsible, the key decision makers, just won't talk to me. And some folks just don't understand the federal market because it's different. In fact, I'm going to call up Max for just 1 second. Give me 1 second here, Max, and I'm going to get you up here. And Max, you there, boss?
I am here, man.
Excellent. Tell me about the federal marketplace. We just talked about this, and Max is a ringer for me. I'll let everybody know because Max is a client. But I want everybody to know you went out, you scheduled something, you said something earlier. Tell us what you said about the difference between the federal marketplace and the rest of the world.
Well, we pride ourselves on our commercial space where we know exactly when we come in to provide managed services, that managed services is basically part-time, full-time IT as an outsourced service to small, medium-sized businesses in New Mexico. And one of the things we've looked at over the last probably 6 months solid is, so can we carry this same model with predictable margins and long-term contracts into the state and federal space? Because our sweet spot where we sit is in Santa Fe and Albuquerque, and a lot of money is tied up in state and local municipality business, which we can't touch yet without GSA, and also because it kind of made sense to say there's also a lot of federal business sitting there. And what I did last week, because I kind of had heard from Jamie had spent time with Jonathan and I, my CEO, encouraging us to do our due diligence, telling us, hey, I'm going to tell you what I know, but I'm also going to tell you go out and look for yourselves. And basically, I think our initial hesitancy is because it couldn't be predicted the way you can predict commercial. It's just a different animal. But I hooked up my boss last week with Robert Levine, who's the IT director for New Mexico State Treasury. And it's comical to me because the first thing Robert said was, so to give a GSA Schedule 70, if you're trying to do business with the state of New Mexico, that's a good idea. And then the following Thursday, he met with a gentleman who, David, who runs SCI Security, which is all high-end card access, integrated IP cameras. It's really security solutions for buildings, and his work is exclusively with the state of New Mexico and federal business. And basically, both David and Robert looked at my CEO and said, hey, you're going to have to learn to swim. You're going to have to get in there. It's not going to run on the same rule set. It's not going to be what you think. In fact, the gentleman that runs SCI Security, David, said, here's the deal. It's extremely lucrative. It will make you manic some days. It will drive you crazy. You will have to plan for inevitabilities of shortfalls in terms of having enough bandwidth on the operations side of the house. But at the end of the day, it's totally worth it. So we've just concluded after all of going back and forth, talking to people that are already involved because we wanted to hear it from what we felt like was an authentic source instead of somebody who was saying, no, really, you ought to do this, and oh, by the way, strike a check for $3,000 and I can make that happen for you kind of thing. We wanted to really know if you're doing it, what's it look like and how is it working for you. But
right.
the intelligence that you gave us helped us to benchmark ourselves against some of our competitors in New Mexico to see exactly, we had already spoken pretty, I would say on numerous occasions and at length to several of the people that work for ABBA, which is one of our big competitors out of Albuquerque. And ABBA's bread and butter is federal business. And they built that business, I would say 60 to 70% of their revenues are federal government, some being state, and then they've got some, I think they've kind of cherry-picked their way through some commercial accounts as well. But, we were able to really determine from what the information you gave us, before we even go down this road, is it worth it? And it helped us.
And did I tell you money was going to fall from the sky?
No.
That everything was going to be peach?
No. In fact, you said just the opposite. You sort of, hey, look, before we even go down this road, you need to kind of go into it eyes open. And we've been able to do that. And we're pumped. I mean, we know the same rules do not apply to commercial as to federal and to state. And we know it's going to take us a little bit of time to kind of get comfortable and fluent in the way to do things. And we've already had some conversations because I started making a couple of phone calls here and there to people in key positions, trying to reach out to them, introduce us, let them know what we were trying to do. And we've already had conversations about our, capability statements and how important that is. And I've gone online and done some pretty extensive research trying to figure out, so how do we best position ourselves? What is a capability statement? How do we send the right message? How do we market ourselves? But going into it knowing that it does pay off, but it's like anything else. You have to invest the time, and you've got to be in it for the long haul. If you're in it for a turn and burn scenario, it isn't going to happen that way. That's not the nature.
You're going to turn and you're going to get burned. That's what's going to happen.
Exactly.
So absolutely. So Max, Steady Networks out in New Mexico, great company, and like, if you can listen to what he had to say, eyes wide open. I mean, we've spent, we did that about 2 months ago. We did the intelligence, and before that we were talking about it. I said, look, the biggest thing that you can do is understand your market before you take a step, because you can burn a lot of money if you're not paying attention, if you're just trying to churn and burn. Some of the other questions, other issues, and I appreciate that, Max. I'll get back to you in a few minutes because we're going to talk about some specifics. But I really appreciate those pieces of advice. I think that's great for everybody here, and that's what we do here. Just open up the floor, and then we'll share that information for everybody. But the opportunities for different GSA schedules, that's why Jamie's here, because you might have a schedule 75, and you really need a schedule 70 also, and ways to be able to cross-pollinate those. And the other thing is the stuff that's coming out for Fed Biz Ops with the RFPs. They're already baked for competitors. You're seeing these things. So you're saying, how in the world can we crack this code? How can we get in here? And that's exactly why we're here. Because this is typical for GSA schedule holders too. So most will fail. Most will fail. And I'm talking about 80% will fail, and they'll lose their schedule because 50% of them don't get a dime, and the other 30% don't meet the $25,000 minimum. Some of you may be in the position right now, and you may have waited too long. It may be too late for you to be able to generate enough money to make that $25,000 minimum. May be too late. And I'll tell you whether it is or not. But you have really good, right now is a really good time because of September coming up to be able to do those things if you do this right. But this isn't just exclusive to GSA schedule holders. This also includes 8A, service disabled, any of the other set-aside type companies that you would think have some kind of strategic advantage. They still wind up losing. Almost half, 5 out of 9, actually more than half, 5 out of 9 don't get a dime. Again, how can this possibly be when you have the set-asides that are out there for people? And most 8As graduate and then disappear. They latch on. It's a 9-year program. They rock it for a couple of years towards the end because they finally get their legs and they're working, and all of a sudden, whoop, that was it. There's nothing left because they were just relying on the 8A program. And you don't want to do that. You want to make sure that you're developing your exit strategy. As soon as you get accepted, you better have an exit strategy. Because guess what? The time's going to come when you're not going to be able to use that anymore, and you're going to have to do that. So why is this? Because the federal government's wired against newcomers. It's a different place. Max was talking about it. It doesn't operate in the same rules. If you think you're going to walk in because you're just so great in the commercial sector, it doesn't operate the same way. There's different rules. It is complicated. It's a different kind of market. The system itself is counterintuitive. When was the last time you sold somebody from the bottom up? They're telling you to go to your small business liaison and work your way up through the chain. When was the last time you were effectively doing that? That just doesn't work. The system is counterintuitive, and it does not work. So here we have the SBA telling us to do those things. We also have the Office of Small Disadvantaged Business Utilization for each of the agencies, and they're funneling you to these people to be able to do that. Half of the people that are in their small business liaison positions don't have any contracting experience. And none of them have any sales experience, or hardly any. Every once in a while you find one that came from the outside world, came in and understands sales. There's billions of dollars spent on sales training. Why is that? Because people need to know how to maneuver through accounts and have to understand buying motives. And these folks don't have that knowledge. They don't have the capabilities, and yet they're put in a position to help you sell in one of the most complicated worlds. And they don't even understand their own world. And that's why the system is broken. The other part is FedBizOps. Only about 6% of the total opportunities land on FedBizOps. And only 75% of those, 25% are actually open for you, right? So 75% of those are baked before they land. So what does that leave? If you're doing the math, that leaves 1.2% of the total market for your products and services within your niche. 1.2% of the total market is on FedBizOps, and the default, once you get to FedBizOps, because you have 30 people that are responding, your default is going to be on price. So even when you win, you lose, because you might not be making money. So the question is, if that's the case, that only 1.2% is there, why would you want to go down that path? You don't want to go down that path. You have to have an alternative method, and the cold hard truth is, and Max alluded to it, federal business development is hard work, takes a long time, and it's expensive. And that's why most people fail. They don't have the wherewithal to stick to it and apply that pressure for a long period of time. And you think that 2 years is a long time for you to be able to get $25,000, but guess what? It can't be. It can't be a long time, because most of the companies don't get there. Why is that? Because they think that money's going to fall from the sky or something like that. So let's take a quick poll for folks, and this happens to do with how much you're willing to spend per year for your federal strategy. How much do you think is a reasonable amount? How much do you think the average is of successful companies for doing that? How much do you spend? And if you want to kind of craft it to how much you think successful companies are, lean towards that one. Successful companies in the federal space. And we'll just go ahead and respond to that. 40% less than 50,000. Okay, keep going. All right. Excellent. A couple more seconds and we'll have everybody in here. We're just about done. Let's see. We're just about done. All right. 10, 5, 4, 3. Only 58% voted, so come on. Go ahead and vote. All right. There we go. So I'm going to share something with you. I'm going to share this so that you can see that 43% spend less than $50,000 a year, 29% 50 to 75,000, 14% 100 to 125, and 14% over 125,000. So let's take a look at what's necessary in order to be able to be effective in the federal space. And these are the numbers that are coming through. First of all, if you're not willing to invest the appropriate time and resources, I'm telling you, and I told Max, and I'm going to tell everybody, I'm not going to pull any punches. I'm going to tell you, stop. Stop right now. I don't care if you've already got your schedule and you've already invested $50,000. If you're not willing to do what's necessary and apply the appropriate time and resources, stop, because you're going to fail, and it's going to cost you more money. So just stop. Save your money. Go to Vegas. Put 50 grand on red. Let it ride, man. You're going to have a good time. You get comped. They'll probably even give you a show or two with that kind of cash. So here you go. This is where we are. Average successful federal contractors that sell more than $2.5 million annually invested approximately $150 grand per year for the first 2 years. That's $300 grand. And if you want to know about your budgetary side of things and you want to know what it looks like for successful business development in the federal space, I should pop that into the chat area if you would for me. And let me see. Can I just do this too? Here you go. I'm going to do it myself. Here's the link to this for everybody. There's a link to the worksheet where you can download this worksheet and you can take a look at it, and it's about $150,000 a year. There's some additional investments if you're developing your schedule and things like that, but if you already have your schedule, it's about $150,000 a year that you should be budgeting for this, and it'll give you the layout of how it works. About 60 hours of time. So, and you need an expert to be doing it. So that's I want to be real about what some of the costs are here. And there are people in the federal government that said you shouldn't have to pay for anything. Guess what? It's not fast, it's not easy, and it's not cheap. And if everybody could do it, it would be easy, and everybody would be successful at it. But instead, 90% fail. 80% of the people that have GSA schedules. So if you are willing to invest the appropriate time and resources, and Max alluded to this, give you the green light, and we'll say you can grow your business. Why is that? It's an enormous marketplace. There are folks that are making millions and millions and millions of dollars doing work either directly for the federal government or sub to prime. Either way, there's $425 billion, 2.5 million contracts. And if you're wondering how many hit FedBizOps, go to FedBizOps and look at the past 365 days and look at everything. And you'll see that about 6% of those 2.5 million contracts actually hit FedBizOps. Why is that? There's a bunch of reasons. We'll talk about that another time. 23% is set aside for small business. That's $119 billion set aside for small businesses. And they buy everything all around the world. Even if your niche market is Albuquerque, New Mexico, you can make money in the federal space. You heard Max, one of the primary competitors, solely in the federal space. How can that possibly be in a place like that where there isn't a whole lot of population? But the federal government is all over the place, all around the world, 85,000 buyers and 470 agencies, and the #1 customer in the world. And that's why we're here. It can be done, and you can win in the federal space. And think about this. If 90% of your competitors are going to fail, that eliminates 90% of your competition if you do it right. If you go about your processes right, you cannot apply arbitrary numbers and arbitrary timelines into a space that you don't understand. If you understand the space, you say, okay, well, I'm an entrepreneur. I want to see things in 90 days. If you want to see things in 90 days, go to Vegas. If you want to see things faster than a year and a half, 2 years before you start to see traction, don't do it. Stay in the commercial space. You understand that space. Stay there. Even if you have your GSA schedule, stay there. But if you want to get into a place where 90% of your competition is dropping off the face of the earth because they're not willing to invest the money and the time and the resources, then you're doing it right and you can win. That's $119 billion for small businesses that's going to be spread out around those folks that are able and capable of being able to stick to it. And what you need is a proactive federal strategy. And I love this word, proactive. I love it. And I'm going to say also a federal strategy that fits your sweet spot. And Max, we didn't even talk but 5 minutes before. I said, just say what you were saying. Because and all these terms that you're talking about with your sweet spot and understanding your sweet spot and where it fits into the federal government, going to be proactive around that sweet spot. And I love the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. If you haven't read it, read it. It's Stephen Covey, And it was done in the 80s, but I'm telling you it's relevant today. And habit number 1 is be proactive. And it talks about taking the initiative. Because if you're taking the initiative, there's 2 things that can happen. Either you're going to act or you're going to be acted upon. And if you wait, you're going to be acted upon. The bottom line. The GSA is going to cancel your schedule if you wait. And focus on your circle of influence, and then expand your circle of influence. That's what we're talking about here. If you're proactive in your strategy, you can do that. I also love dictionary.com. Listen to this. Serving to prepare for, to intervene in, or control an expected occurrence or situation, especially a negative, difficult one like sequestration, like a crazy freaking market that you don't understand, and to be anticipatory about that marketplace, about going after it. Be anticipatory. And then also in the World English Dictionary, tending to initiate change rather than reacting to events. And I love this one. It talks about of denoting a mental process that affects a subsequent process. So we're talking about initiating change in your mental process and your internal processes that affects subsequent processes, so that at the end of the day, you are successful and you're one of the winners, and it is an extremely lucrative and also profitable if you do it right and you're managing your processes right. So that's what we're going to be talking about today, and we're going to talk about changing the way you think so that you can take initiative and you focus on what works, even if it's hard to see. You can focus on what works. Your proactive pursuit. This is a subcomponent of your proactive strategy. You're going to be about the federal marketplace, and you're going to be about pursuing the folks. Before you can even think about pursuing somebody, we need to know who we're pursuing. And what Max was talking about, you got to know who you're going after. And there's 3 primary players in small business procurement. Sometimes there's only 2, depending on the size. But these are what I call decision clusters. And these folks get together. You have the project manager, the technical representative, and you have the contracting officer, and they get together for a specific project. Now, this project is assembled, but each one of these people have different roles, different needs, different buying motives, and different reasons for making decisions. And if you're approaching them all the same way, you're going to miss one of them, that's for sure, if not all. So this goes around what we're talking about with capability statements and understanding your approach of how to get to these guys. Here are the folks that are responsible for these procurements. You have the project manager, program managers. They drive initiatives from the president on down all the way through the agency, and they're responsible for these new initiatives. And some of those are like green. Green is still great. If you have anything that's dealing with saving money, cloud computing, security, any of those folks, those are the folks that are buying right now, because they have initiatives to have to meet within their agency. Some of these can be very political. We know about the healthcare, very political, but these initiatives are being rolled out as we speak. Health IT, huge right now. They look for new ideas and new technology. I'm not saying they're cutting edge, because they're not, but if you think about cutting edge to them being 2 or 3 years behind, that usually puts you in a pretty good position to take a look at your market as it was 2 or 3 years ago, and then say, okay, what was happening then? And we can go to our federal buyers and say, here's where you can improve your internal pieces. So the next thing is they're influenceable. You have the ability to influence them. Where do you think they get the scope and the requirements for that scope? They get it from people like you and me. We can give it to them, and we provide that to them. And we talked about that a couple months ago, and I'll do a review on that in just a minute. And that, in giving them your capabilities, what are the capabilities that are required for this particular project? And these are to craft those. Their job is to get it done right, and your job is to tie in with the initiatives, tie your proposal, your direction, your communication in with the initiatives so it is aligned with their initiatives, and help them look good so that they look good to their bosses. That's a human need right there. The next person is a technical representative. They're busy. They work for the PM usually. They're in the food chain there. They help to bridge the gap between the project manager and the contracting officer. Generally, they're risk averse because they're not as high up in the organization. They assist in assembling the technical requirements or looking at the standards that are out there. If other agencies or maybe internally in their agency first, they look for who's done that in our agency, and then then start to expand out. Maybe they're in a sub-agency, like FAA will go out to Department of Transportation, and Department of Transportation say, well, let's look at the federal government. And then after that, they'll look outside to say, what's the general world doing? But most of the time, they're looking internally in the federal space. And if you're quoting all the great things you've done in the commercial sector and all the money you've saved for businesses, it's wah, 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 Charlie Brown. That's not the right message for these folks. The right message is, how many places have you done this within the agencies? How many times have you done this internally with that? So they assist in mandatory requirements, and you can affect this as well. Certifications can be put into those scopes, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes, just as a recap from what we did a couple months ago. Your job, help them with the requirements, imagine that, and also help them look good. Help them look good by assembling those requirements that are very well done in context with the initiatives that are within the agency. Helps them look good. Finally, we have with the contracting officers. These are the people that are writing the contracts, they're signing on the dotted line, and they're paying the bills. These are the folks that have the money. These are the ones that are doing the procurement. So here we are. They're busy. They will not teach you their world. They're risk averse. They do not like new things. And they're experts in moving paper. This is not to diminish what they do. I was talking to a contracting officer yesterday. I said, what's your job? I would not want to do it, because they have internal pressures, they have political pressures, they have all these pieces that they don't know anything about. If it's anything technology-wise, they just don't know. They can't possibly know about how these things work. Their job is to move the paper, get that thing fulfilled, and they select the contract mechanism. The purchasing mechanism, does it go out to full and open with RFP? Is it going to be set aside? Is it going to be sole source to an 8A? Can we do it between two service-disabled companies? Do we want to do it between two woman-owned small businesses? Or maybe we want to use an IDIQ, indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity contract. Maybe they want to go to NASA Soup instead of going to GSA. Maybe there's a whole bunch of, they choose how that's going to be done. So you can help them do that, by the way. If you can help them, that's one of the ways that you help them. They develop the contract documents. Sometimes they're responsible for administering the contract post-award and just checking up on you. They absolutely want the fastest way to purchase. In fact, they don't want 50 respondents any more than you want 50 competitors. That's just more work. So easy is good for them and make them feel valued. These people get dumped on all the time. So if you value them, and imagine people that dump on people that have millions of dollars to spend. I don't get it. I value these folks every time I talk to them. And most of the time, they're willing to help me get to where I want to go because of that. Just value them. Breathe life into them. Give them something to be positive about that day. And we have some secrets to that, and I'm not giving them up here. But so any questions about those folks, the people that are there? You can raise your hand. You can run it in that chat on the right-hand side. Let's see what we have here, if we have any questions or hands raised. Any hands raised in here? I don't see any hands raised. Let's see. I do have a question, and you don't have a mic. Okay. So Tom asks, we have a niche-oriented product and service. Who are the people? How can you find the people that are in that? The answer is, we'll talk about it in a few minutes, but if you have a niche-oriented product or service, the first questions are, how do your customers buy now? Who are your primary competitors? What happens before they buy from you? And what's the size of your contract? If we understand those things, then we'll be able to give you a good idea of who the buyers are for that particular product and service. It can even be very niche. One of our new clients for our business development services, Tricerat, and they're very, very niche-oriented printing software. And they just make Citrix run better. That's all they do. They don't do Citrix, they don't do VMware, but they operate there. So that's a very, very small window. It's a very niche-oriented market. Again, Max is out in Albuquerque, and he does IT, which is broad, but he's in a niche market because it's Albuquerque. So trying to find those people, very niche-oriented, we dig very hard to find those folks. But they can be found. Any other questions about these folks? Any comments about these key decision makers and how they operate. We'll talk a little bit more about the people that are involved as well, Tom. We'll get to that. All right, getting back to the proactive pursuit. We're going to do a capabilities recap. We did this a couple months ago, 2 or 3, I think, and I'm just going to review it because, Matt, you brought it up earlier. The capability statement is what it should be, and it's a one-page company resume. It's a one-page slick, if you would. It's got your contact info. It's got your contract info, the business size, whether you're small business, large business, and your certifications. If you're 8A, if you have some other certifications, ISO 9000 or CMMI or any of those things, any of your certifications should be on there. Your past performance, just who the folks that you've done business with in the past. Your core competencies, give them an overview of what's happening there, and they need to be customizable to your target because you don't want to pitch everybody the same way, and customizable to your prospects' nuances. And the reason why I say that is because we already identified there's 3 different people that are going to see this. Now, there's a method to the madness when we assemble a capability statement. Everything on the left-hand side is dealing with the contracting officer. Everything on the right-hand side is dealing with the program officer. So it kind of splits it, but it's the same kind of thing. The contracting officer is looking on the left-hand side. The people in the program are generally looking on the right. And what I would do is rearrange the bullet points, pitch 3 things. If you take a look, there's cloud computing, hosted, non-hosted, desktop virtualization, and custom integration. So we're pitching those top 3 things. And then beneath that, we have some other bullet points that we can rearrange. If you're talking about somebody with RFID solutions and you have those, take a look on the right-hand side, you can see it. RFID solutions, we may pop them up into the top. Whatever they need is what you do. Now, there's a general capability statement that we send out, but we customize these when we have our conversations. The next thing we do, we mentioned this earlier, and then we provide sample scopes of work. Where do you think they get these from? They get them from us. Let's make it easy for them. Give them something that's easy for them to use. So these sample scopes of work are your key differentiators, not necessarily by how great you are and all your customer base and all that stuff, but the things that you would ideally want to respond to in an RFP. And most of us have responded to it and said, man, that is totally exactly what we do. Pull that, distill it, and present it back to them. Include certifications that are important for them. Why is it important for them to have these certain certifications? Well, 2 reasons. One is because it helps them narrow down the field so they don't have as many respondents. And secondarily, it helps you look good. So there you go. You have those, and that could be ISO, CMML, engineering certifications, if Microsoft, etc. Your experience, the length of experience. If I was competing against you and you were new in the marketplace, I'd say, well, you have to have 5 years of experience in doing business with the Department of Transportation in order to be able to compete for this bid. Have you ever seen that? It didn't come there by accident. It came because there's somebody in there that's affecting the scope. And the fact of the matter is, if you're not affecting the scope, somebody else is. And that's why most of them are baked by the time they hit the street. So that goes with your experience. The number of experienced personnel. Have you ever seen that, where you have to have at least 10 engineers with this certification baked into a bid? That didn't happen by accident. That happened because the competitor has those quals, and they're trying to thin the field. Past performance, another place where you see this all over the federal space. Getting your past performance in there. The size of the project. Sometimes it's not just past performance of how many projects you did. It's this many projects, at least $5 million. Now, how many folks can operate in that atmosphere? Same thing. They're trying to thin the pool. And they look for things in similar scope, number of projects, all these things. And other agencies, give us your experience with other agencies. They look at other places with other agencies. Internally with the federal government, again, they look within their agency, sub-agency first, their master agency, federal government, and then outside federal government. So if you've been just working outside the federal government, you're already 3 steps behind everybody else that's inside. And you need to get yourself positioned in that. And that's why it's hard work. So the biggest thing, Max alluded to this too, and I loved it, and I didn't even prime him for it, but dedicating your resources for your proactive pursuit. If you do not dedicate resources, if you are not applying these resources appropriately, it's not going to work. You have got to dedicate resources in the right direction, and that's going in your proactive approach. So what you need is if you're going to apply, if you're going to hire somebody or you're going to assign somebody, and listen, I'm going to talk about this for a minute because it drives me nuts. I see it all the time. And you have your ACE. You guys are doing business in the federal government. You have your ACE. Your ACE is responsible for bringing in business. A lot of that's commercial business. You're not going to apply your ACE to your federal strategy, especially if it's going to take 18 months, because you're going to lose a whole bunch of revenue because your ACE is now applying himself someplace else. You're usually not going to take your steady eddies either, because they're kind of bringing in enough, and they're kind of working their plan, and they're at quota, and they're running. They're your steady eddies. You're not going to take those folks off because you don't want to distract that revenue stream either. So what normally happens? You normally take one of your underperforming reps who doesn't have experience and apply them into the federal space. Now, in what world does that make sense? It makes sense in your world because you're sitting there saying, here's my internal resource that I have available. It's not the best resource. In fact, it's probably the worst resource, but I'm going to put them in the most complex environment and make them work. That's not going to work, especially if you don't even know what success looks like in the federal space because you don't understand your market. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you some pipeline management of how you can manage somebody and take a look to see if they're being effective. Now, key performance indicators. We didn't invent this. KPIs, right? Number of touches. First thing, let's talk about how many people we can reach, the calls made, and the email sent. This is all activity driven, all revolving around just pounding the phones, pounding the phones, pounding the phones. I got folks on my team that are on this call right now. All they do all day is pound the phones, pound the phones, pound the phones. They're calling, they're sending emails, they're making touches, and it's all activity driven. And you can only manage what you measure. You cannot possibly manage what you're not measuring. So you've got to measure everything. And if you start with phone calls and say, how many phone calls did you make today? How many times did you send out emails? How many capability statements were out there? And these revolve around SMART goals. If you're not familiar with SMART goals, specific, exactly what you want to accomplish. 20 calls. It's measurable. How did you do? I made 16. Okay. Made 16 out of 20. Great. It's achievable. Can you make 20 calls? Yes, you can. Why? Because there's 60 minutes in a day, or 60 minutes in the hour, and you can make 20 calls. On average, you might not make 20 calls every hour, but sometimes you make 25. Sometimes you make 30. People are answering the phone. Boom. You just bang, bang, bang. And here, I'll give you another secret. Rule number 1, don't leave messages. Why? Because if you do, then they can determine whether they want to talk to you or not. And you're putting the ball in their court. So don't do it. It's achievable, and you can reach the goal. It's relevant. How does that tie into your key responsibilities? My responsibility is to make 20, 25 calls an hour. That's my responsibility, so I can book meetings, so that I can schedule people that we can do follow-ups. We can send capabilities. We can follow up capabilities. There's key responsibilities. Got to spend the time. Got to do the grunt work. Got to make it happen. And they're time bound. How often does it happen? It happens every hour. You can say, how did you do in that hour? How did you do in that day? How did you do in the week? Then you can determine how you set targets, set your targets and your dates, and then you can manage your folks and manage what they're doing and help them improve. SMART goal activities, activity-based, measurable, and manageable. You can't manage what you don't measure. So measure it and then manage on it. And this all leads to where we start to get into what is known as relationship development. Your initial meetings and conference calls. And I'm gonna do something shocking here. I'm gonna tell you, people buy from people they like. And guess what? The chances are the people you're calling already know people and already like people. So what's your job? Your job is very simple. Become one of the people they like. It's not complicated. You've got to get yourself injected as the good guys, as somebody that they can rely on, as somebody that they can count on. And you can do that by being proactive and going after them and showing them. It may take them 6 months. I've had people tell me to my face that the reason that they took the meeting with me was because I had bugged them for 6 months. And they said, I'm not going to go away. I must have some reason for them to be able to work with them. This is going to lead to opportunities, and those opportunities, you're going to have the ability to influence the scope, which directly correlates to wins. If you're influencing the scope, it directly correlates to your ability to win. If you're not, I'm telling you, somebody else is, and it's correlating to their win. And you're just going to be another number if you're not influencing the scope. Getting involved in the pre-proposal process, getting the proposals, and Carl didn't make it, but he's involved with the proposal writing side of things and improving those, and that associates to wins. Driving this down through these step processes is what's going to get you to win. It doesn't happen automatically, and people aren't going to point and click and give you $1 million. It's not going to happen. You've got to be proactive. You've got to assemble this. You've got to track your performance, and that includes your overall performance in the federal marketplace. And what we're all about is the wins. And this will give you the ability to expand your presence into new federal agencies, new contacts within your agencies. Chances are, if you're already in a federal agency, you can expand within another part of that agency and make money. And also be able to build tangential areas adjacent to your core offerings. I'm not saying that if you're making boats that you all of a sudden should start making planes. I'm not saying that. But if you're making boats, maybe there would be a place for you to be able to start doing something else in the marine world. Or if you're doing electrical services, maybe you can expand into doing low voltage and supplying some AV and security equipment. Why? Because you're already in under the tent. That's why. And you can expand your areas a lot easier than trying to attack a new space. Even if you're in the space, it takes time. But being able to be strategic about what you're offering to the federal government, expand those offerings, that makes sense. Don't stray too far from your core, but do things that make sense. And you'll find that it does work. The other part of this is when you're meeting with people, you're going to develop referrals. And these referrals can be people within the agency, people outside their current agency. If you're prospecting, if you're talking with the right people, if you have a high probability target base, you're going to wind up operating in the right field. Does that make sense? So, dedicating resources, measure your efforts, manage the effectiveness of those efforts. You can always improve your position. And that's throughout your entire process. It never, ever should stop. Keep applying those resources and being smarter and smarter and smarter. And the way that you do that is by measuring those and improving your effectiveness. Does that all make sense? Getting to a place where we're influencing the scope and winning. That's it. That's our job. Our job is to get out there in front of the people and make sure you get in front of those RFPs, because if you're not, somebody else is. See, I see there's, hang on one second. Let me make sure that we're doing this right. Okay, any questions about this? I'll talk about the process that we use. This is all embedded in our Limerick process, which is leveraging relationships, influence the process, monitor for opportunities. You're probably doing that already. Respond and improve your response, and then you get to the place where you capture. Even when you have influence, you don't necessarily win right away, because you can make mistakes. I've done it. I've had an entirely baked scope where it was 100% my scope, and I lost. How can you do that? I lost because I was cocky. I'm not cocky anymore. I'm paying attention to everything that happens from here on out. So people buy from people they like. Your job is to find the people who need to like you and get them to like you, get in front of the RFP, win the business. Those are the steps. Those are the places that you can operate. All right, questions, chat. Enter your audio pin, if you would, if you have it. Let's see. Any questions here? Max, I'm going to unmute you again and see if you have any comments on what you know so far and what we talked about. Anything you'd like to add in what you've heard? You still there, boss?
I'm still here, man.
Any information you want to share from what you've seen and with what you know? We'll talk about some specifics about what you have.
Yeah, the conversations that I have had with the actual the contracting officers, it's you definitely have to work them on the phone differently than you talk to a CEO of a commercial business. You're in the commercial world. I don't know what the numbers would be exactly in terms of how we would fit with our competitors or how many companies are contacting them about managed services, but I can tell you that these guys, it's almost kind of like, I guess they're a little bit jaded, and I just tried to take the guy and get him off balance a little bit on the phone. I was talking to the guy with the Army Corps of Engineers, but where we landed ultimately was, good, man, hey, appreciate the call, sounds like you guys have got some things going on, send me a capability statement. Ultimately, it's the capability statement. I think that is the key leverage, because And then it's about following up. It's about staying in front of people. And that's true of anywhere in business. I think that's just, in this particular case, with the Fed stuff, you end up becoming faceless. You end up becoming unmemorable. So the best thing you can do is constantly keep in front of these people and talk to them. We've started to build some relationships in the state of New Mexico, and it is very much the same thing. Everybody's courting them for their business, and they're used to that. But when you actually go a little further and you get concerned about how it's affecting them instead of the money you're trying to make, and get in the seat of that prospect, they want companies they can rely on. They want an actual resource, and if you continue to be there and show up and be present, you know, it will end up landing you opportunities. It definitely will.
It can't.
That's all I've got.
It has to. It absolutely has to. And Max, and again, what I love about this, and while Max is a client, I hadn't talked to Max in 2 months. And I was following up with him. He popped in, and we were talking. And Max is totally on point with this. Totally on point. He talked about knocking them off balance a little bit. You had to be different to get them off balance. And the key was follow up. Otherwise, you're going to be faceless. And me and my team, we just had this conversation last week. If we're not doing something different, we're going to be just like everybody else. And guess what? We don't deserve to win if we're just like everybody else. We don't deserve to win. And if you're not being different, if you're not doing something different and building those relationships, and everybody's courting, very rare, besides Vegas, do you walk into a place and say, hey, let's get married. Doesn't happen. You're not going to it's not going to be there. So what I want to say is absolutely positively get in the mindset of the people that are there, and they absolutely want a resource. And what we did is we figured out from Max the people that are most likely to need that resource, didn't we, Max?
Yes, we did.
Yes, we did. And the people that you're talking to are not just anybody. They're people that have purchased what you sell or very similar to what you sell, or key indicators. And we're going to talk about that a little bit, and I'm going to use Max in this because we're going to feed right into that. Because the one thing I want to make sure everybody knows, 104 days is the days until September 30th, and I know that we did that before. And hold on one second. We do have another question. Hang on one second. I'm sorry. Let me get James. James Welch. James, you there?
Yes.
Hey, James. First of all, who are you with, James?
Criterion Labs.
Criterion Labs. And what does Criterion Labs do?
We do environmental testing and consulting. One of the areas I know the government has to contend with is in office space, with people complaining about indoor air quality and someone needing to check it out, so to speak, and if any problems are found, recommend ways to do it.
True enough.
I want to know who are the people that would get the call that there is a complaint and have to find somebody to come in.
Who would get the call with the complaint, and who would be responsible for fulfilling that, right? Well, there's going to be two. One is going to be probably on your facility side, right? Somebody's going to say, hey, we got this problem, somebody's getting sick. The other person, and then they're going to say, we got to fix this, so it's going to get thrown over to procurement to go get. So there's two people, at least two, but probably only two in those instances. And we can identify one relatively easily, and we can get to the other person through 6 degrees of separation. Kevin Bacon game. So absolutely. So I'm going to show you how to reach one right away, and then how to generate the others. Fair enough?
Sure.
Okay, great. So and did that answer your question so far?
So far.
Or at least pose the question. All right. Hang on a second, James. I'm gonna talk specifically about that because I think that's very important. While we're doing this, 104 days till September, I'm going to tell you why this matters most, and that is contractual activity spikes 200 to 800%. Almost in all industries, not everyone, because you have something like produce, and that spikes in the middle of the year because of summer growing. But besides that, most everybody, including your environmental services and everything else, and your IT purchases and everything else, all these are September spikes. I call it the heartbeat of the federal space, and we're 104 days away from the last contract that's going to be executed, which is going to be 11:59 Hawaiian time on September 30th. So it's going to be the wee hours of the morning of October 1st for most of us in the United States. So the question is, and this is, I know this sounds potentially like a stupid question, but it's not really a stupid question, because there is absolutely a timeline for this. And there's a way to get to folks sooner than later, but I want to be careful, because I'm not going to blow sunshine and saying even if you get to these people that you're going to get business this year. So I want to know very specifically if when you would like to reach these people to get the business. And I know it sounds like a loaded question, because everybody wants to do it right away. 100% wants to do it this year. I'm going to show you how to do it this year. It's 100% so far. And I figured that it was, and it's not just a gimme question, because you may not be positioned to be able to do it yet. You may not be ready to be able to get where you want to go this year. So you may need a little bit more foresight for next year. But I know most people, and I'm going to close the poll. I'll share it with you, because I figured, look at this. We got one that says they wanted at least one. You got 10 seconds. Got a couple people, actually. All right. Here we go. We'll close the poll. We'll share it. Okay, 71% want to do it this fiscal year, and 29% want to do it by next fiscal year. And I say, great. I think you can do both. I think you can do all, as a matter of fact. And everything that you do should be thinking about September's as your barometer to figure out how effective you are. Put in your SMART goals. October 1st. What did we do this year? Because this is the time for the federal space. So what you need right now, for the folks that want to do it this year, for sure, what you need right now is you need to be proactive. And what I'm going to be telling you about is we can put you in control of an expected occurrence, which happens to be September 30th, so that you can be anticipatory, so you can get there by providing them with the ability to initiate. I'm going to give you the ability to initiate change and do what works through implementing a specific process. Max knows about some of this process. I'm going to reach out to you one more time in a second, Max, because you're going to tell us what it looks like. Step one is define your market sweet spot. And in finding your market sweet spot, how do your customers buy right now? Think about it. How do they go about buying from you right now? We're going to replicate that and position that in the federal space. Who are your primary competitors? Very, very important. Some of the best information that we got from Max came because we knew that ABBA was a primary competitor that did a lot of work in the federal space. What's a great thing that can happen? What was one of the best things that happened from that, Max? What was the best thing that happened when we looked up ABBA? What did we get from ABBA?
We figured out real quickly that who they were doing business with and what those contracts were worth, so we knew who was buying and how much revenue they were actually making based on their federal business.
And when you say the who is buying, what do you mean who? You talking about the specific agency, or are you talking about specific people?
The actual agencies within who locally in the state of New Mexico and nationally was actually using what ABBA had to offer in terms of services, software, hardware, expertise. That's how we figured it out.
And also, so along with that, you had the people, right?
Yeah, I mean, it does drill down. The spreadsheet actually drills down to the individuals, and you've got it all the way down to phone numbers and email addresses. So it's not like, okay, I don't know anybody, let me go try to find somebody. There are actual ways to get that conversation started, because you can pick up the phone or launch an email and introduce yourself.
That's exactly right. It gives you the ability to be able to be proactive. You don't have to wait till something hits the street. You can go talk to them. And here's another piece. What happens before they buy from you? And sometimes you may be the front end of that. If you're in a construction world, maybe you're doing maybe you're like environmental. You mentioned environmental earlier, James. I don't know if you do this type of environmental, but if you're doing NEPA studies, that happens before any construction happens, and permitting happens before that. And being able to do some land surveying, all those are way, way early in a construction project. But if you take a look at the timeline and how things unfold, then you can start to get an understanding of what happens and what happens before you. And then the size of the contract starts to give you your sweet spot, the smallest, the largest, and the average, so that you know these are contracts that you operate under. So, your smallest is $5,000, your largest is $5 million, but my average is really about 75 or something. Now, I don't know what it is, but I'm just putting that out there. And getting to what Max was talking about. We're talking about the buyers. We're talking about the people that are responsible for your sweet spot. And here we have Delaria, 90 contracts for $2.3 million, 12.3 million. Total contracts that was within, depending on the timeline, sometimes it's within a year, usually that's within a year or two. So here we have 90 contracts executed for what you buy. And we can easily do the average of that and find out what that is, but we talk about another one, 40 contracts for $1.7 million. Largest contract is less than $100,000. That's a magic number, because everything under $100,000 is supposed to be set aside for small business. Magic number. Beautiful thing. Great sweet spot with Carmelita. Smaller contracts never hit the radar. Never hit the radar screen. Very rarely do any of those even hit Fed Biz Ops. Why is that? Because she already knows what's going to happen with it. So who's buying from your direct competitors? You mentioned that with ABBA. That was a great, great thing. Here you have the number of contracts, the total amount that they're buying, who they're buying, what the agency is, the phone numbers, and the email. Allows you to be proactive. Go get them. Don't sit around. Go get them. Don't wait. Go get them. And I told Max, I said, don't wait for a GSA schedule. Go talk to them. If they tell you that they need a GSA schedule, then mark that down. Go to the next one. But when you're talking to these folks, there's no reason why you can't talk to them and ask them what's your preferred way of purchasing. If you like GSA, great. Got a GSA schedule, right? So any questions about that? Because we're going to launch into a little bit. I'm going to give you an advertisement on how you can do this right now. Again, James, we'll get to that place. Finding your market sweet spot. How do they do it now? How are your primary competitors? Who are they? How are they operating there? What happens before they buy from you? And the size of the contracts. What we have is this is what Max did a few months ago. It's the isiFederal Marketing Essentials, and this provides you with the key contacts who buy your stuff, your competitors' contacts. I love this. This is my favorite thing, because I know for a fact if we're looking at people that are buying from competitors over and over again, we can even decide to leave them alone because we know that they're too in tight with your competitors. But under the radar contracts, they're never going to hit the street. You can get to these people and get it ahead of that process. Breakdown of agency spending, as Max said. Primes and their contacts. So if you have prime contractors out there, big SAIC people that are doing a lot of stuff in IT, you can get their contacts as well. And recommended action steps. And do this, save $1,000 now, and you got to do it now. If you want to do anything this year, you got to do it now. Can't wait. You can't wait a week. You have to do it by the end of this week, because the sooner you move, the sooner you're going to know about winnable opportunities that are under the radar, that never hit FBO or the high-dollar databases. If you're using any of the big boys, Centurion is one, and GovWin is another. Deltek, that's Deltek's new thing. They'll fit your sweet spot. The stuff that doesn't hit anywhere else. You just can't find it anywhere else, and it's competitor specific. We go after your competition, and they're going to be the ones that are going to yield the most fruit. And then we look at other feeders in there too to be able to say, what are they buying before that? So just real quick, remember, people buy from the people they like. Find the people who need to like you, get them to like you, and get in front of that RFP process so that you can win the business. Now is the best time to do it. It's 104 days. I'm not going to let you go without saying that again. That's the number that matters most. Set yourself up for this year, next year, and the following year by understanding your marketplace, and do it today so that you can have this. If we do this, we know that we can, if we want to do a blitz to get your stuff out there, we can do a blitz and help you with that as well, and do that by the middle of July. But that only happens if you do it this week, because I can tell you it takes 3 weeks for us to do the intelligence. And is it worth it, Max? Is the 3 weeks wait worth it?
Absolutely. We would have had no idea whether or not it was worth jumping in or even exploring and taking it seriously. Once we had a chance to take a look at the landscape, we were able to say, okay, let's actually invest further time, money, investigation, and figure out if this is something for us, because obviously it's working for these guys and they're our direct competitors.
Yeah, and it can work and it will work. And the best thing that you can do is steal the wheels off of your competition, like ABBA. They're giving you they give you the recipe. We distill it and we give you the recipe for stealing those wheels. Go right after their competitors, and maybe some of them are going to, you may not be able to turn some of them. But 80%, it's 80-20 rule applies here, and that is that 80% of the contacts on that list have even if they like ABBA, there's a weakness in their account at some point, and your job is to be there. Build that relationship, stay on top of them, and we can help you do that too. We don't just leave you hanging out there. Max is dedicated to this. I love it. Love they have somebody dedicated to it, somebody that's qualified. He doesn't necessarily understand the federal business, but we're helping him understand the federal business. It's different than the commercial world, and they can reach out to us at any time, and we can continue to help that. Again, visit proplibrary and captureplanning.com for help with your federal your proposal development, and reach out to Jamie if you need help with your GSA proposal stuff. Sorry we didn't really dive too much into that, Jamie. I always appreciate you being here, and I was on a mission today to get everybody on track for what's happening there. If you do want to join us for what's happening next Tuesday, 5:30 here, email me at dlowe@isifederal.com, and we'll get you fixed up with a ticket. And again, here's our contact information. The next session, July 16th at 11 a.m. and I'm going to be on vacation, so somebody else is going to be covering this for me. Jamie, you might be able to, or we'll talk. Maybe Carl can do it. So. We definitely appreciate you being here. Again, get in front of these folks now. Don't wait. Make sure that you're out there. You're doing the right things the right way. Good things happen. Good things happen when you do the right things the right way for the right amount of time. And don't be a faithless person in the crowd. Don't be one of the ones that have to fail. You don't have to fail. Get out. Start doing something proactive, and we can help you do that. Give us a call. Shoot me an email. If you're interested in the Market Essentials package, please get in touch with me right now. Do not wait, because I'm telling you, if you wait another week, I'm going to tell you to wait another year, or it's going to change your strategy to a longer phase, looking at next September. So any way you look at it, we can help you do it. But if you want to do it this year, you've got to do it right now. So great. Thanks for joining us. Jamie, thanks so much. Anything special you want to add? I know there's some contracts and GSA contracts that are not going to be available anymore come October, I think. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, just real quick, I know we're short on time, but there are 4 schedules that are going to be closed for new entries: 51B, 56, 73, and 81IB. And those schedules are going to be closing at the end of September. And if you are offering services that fall within those schedules, that's something that you're going to want to take action on to get yourself in the door before the door closes for good. And they may reopen at some point in time, but usually if they close them, they're going to be sitting at least for a couple of years before you can get back inside. So if you want to know more details about that, I'd certainly be happy to explain what those schedules are and what they pertain to. But you really hit the nail on the head when you talk about taking action, because if you don't, the competition is just going to go roaring right by you.
That's right. Or you can act or be acted upon. And if you haven't read that in 7 Habits, I got it sitting right on my desk. And I refuse to be acted upon. I'd much rather get my teeth kicked in by being proactive than waiting and let somebody else eat my lunch. Not going to do it. So again, thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Join us next July 16th. Again, Max, thanks so much. Max Steady Networks out in New Mexico. If you ever need anything that revolves around IT solutions, especially monitoring, if your company needs some IT resources, they can do it remotely as well. So giving a shout out to him. Thank you very much, Max, for being Johnny on the spot without any prep.
Absolutely.
Awesome. We really appreciate it. And I'm going to let everybody go, and please get in touch with us if you need us. And if you're ready to go. So Have a great, great month. Enjoy this fine summer weather. Talk to you later.